Hello everyone, welcome back to TheBotTalk. In today's episode we have Burger Cakes on the show. A lot of you guys have tagged in when I've asked for guests to come on the show, so here is, we have a bunch of questions to jump into, a bunch of interesting topics, so let's jump straight into it. The first question I want to begin this episode with: how did you discover the reselling scene?
Alright, well, I discovered, the reselling scene back in high school, which was my senior year, which was in 2017. I had a couple of friends who would like wear like hype shoes and like designer clothes and stuff like that, but not many people did in the area that I lived in because it's like a smaller like town area. But I started basically my senior year. I was like getting into like foam posits and a couple of like LeBrons and stuff like that. So when I graduated, I got my first job and stuff like that and was able to like start making money. And the first like thing I ever did like resale wise was I hit on the Jordan 1 bread toe like Foot Locker reservation. And that was like the first like actual hype shoe I ever had. And all my friends would go to like one of our local consignment shops and like buy and sell stuff, and they were like, "Oh, you should go there and like sell them, like sell your shoes. You'll probably make some money on them." So I took them there and I sold them, which I had a size 13 at the time. I sold for it was 260, I think. So I made basically like $100 profit, and that was basically like the first time I've ever like resold anything. And I guess it just started from there. I started like hitting more reservations for this one shoe at Foot Locker, and then eventually I got into other stuff, and then finally discovered the whole like reselling scene and sneaker Twitter, I guess we could call it.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the road between reselling your first couple of sneakers and getting to buying to it or sneaker to it, whatever you want to call it, it's kind of like a faded road. Like if I were to look back on it, I don't really know the road I really took. It kind of just kind of blends in together when you look back on it. But one aspect I did want to pick into, obviously you went to that consignment shops with your friends. Obviously your friends told you to tag along, so you tagged along. You flipped it. You made $100, $120. What aspect of, obviously there was an aspect of making money, but what aspect of flipping shoes was something that you liked and was something that you wanted to continue?
Well, like I said, like all my well, not all my friends, but a couple of my friends were into like Jordans and stuff like that, and it was always cool. Like my friend had like a OG pair of Bread 11s, the other one had like OG Shadow ones and stuff like that. So they had like hype shoes that were cool, and people would always like comment on them and stuff like that. So I guess like when I finally got like into shoes and got in, like I guess getting those bread toes and stuff like that, it made me realize like, oh, like you can make some money doing this stuff, and it was kind of fun too because I was able to pick up stuff that was personals that I could keep if I wanted to, and if I didn't, I could just sell them and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot more fun than just regular employment. Obviously, if you go to a job, you clock in, you do your hours, you clock out. But with this, it's a whole experience. You know, there's a bunch of variables. It could go different ways. It does vary in the amount of money you make. And one thing it always does come back to, the amount of effort you put in is how much money you're going to kind of get out at the end of the day. But one thing I did also want to ask you, obviously, when you started in the reselling scene, you mentioned that you used the Foot Locker reservation app to go ahead and pick up these shoes. How was the jump like going from being a manual user, going to these stores and picking up these shoes and flipping them, to then investing in your first bot?
Well, that was kind of like crazy. Like I'd always seen stuff of people botting. Like I was in a couple sneaker groups on Facebook. One of them was Scoop 208, I believe, and there's people in there and like they would sell bots and talk about bots and reselling and stuff like that. And I wanted to get into it because like I was like, I want to try this. I want to see like people, because I would see people posting pictures of like all these shoes they're getting. Like, how are people doing this? Like, I want to try and do this. And I finally found someone who was like selling an A and B copy, and they sold to me for like $80, and that's how I basically got into like the whole botting scene. But it is kind of, it's a weird like transition to go from like a manual user to botting, because there's a lot in botting. Like, you have to learn everything, proxy, server, stuff like that. When you're manual, you just go on your phone, and if you hit, you hit. If you don't, then you don't really care. But like for us, we put so much time and money into botting that like when we don't hit, it's bad. We're actually like losing money compared to like a manual user or someone who's doing like just Foot Locker reservations and stuff like that. You really don't have anything invested except like just your time to go and pick up the shoes, or the 5 minutes it takes for you to fill out the little online reservation.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you there. Obviously, with botting, there's servers, there's proxies, there's Gmails, there's a bunch of capital that you have to invest in, and you're not necessarily guaranteed to get anything out. You know, if you become fluent with it and successful with it, then you are going to kind of guarantee yourself certain success. But when it comes to manual, like you said, it's literally just your time being invested into it. So it is an interesting transition. I feel like most people don't understand when they transition from being a manual user to a botter, how much capital you really need to put in before you go ahead and jump into this huge community. But when you did start botting on A and B, because obviously that was your first bot, was there any elements of botting that surprised you? Did you find anything difficult? How was that all like?
Well, like when I first got into it, like I obviously didn't really understand proxies and I didn't really understand stuff like that. But luckily, like the kid I bought it from was like super helpful. Like he literally we're still friends to this day, and I bought the copy back in late 2018. That was when I started botting. He helped me like prepare for all like the upcoming like Adidas Yeezy drops. We had the Wave Runner restock at the time, and he was like helping me prepare for stuff like that. It was all like sort of weird at first. If he didn't help me, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it because I would have had no idea what to do, and I would have just gotten like really frustrated. But yeah, he helped me with like what proxies I should buy, who I should buy them from, where to buy them from. And, like he was just basically like my one-on-one like person to help me bot. Like he was my guide man basically until I got into like groups and stuff and learned it more.
Yeah, definitely. When I started, I did have someone I did regularly go back to, and I was asking like this was back in 2018, so these were some like really washed questions. I was speaking about like, yo, when is Ghost Sneakers gonna come back in stock? Like I was asking some really stupid questions, but definitely, I mean, if there's that one person you can go to, and keeping in mind, guys, the people that I'm watching, but the botting scene on YouTube was like non-existent practically. Like there wasn't many people around. Like when I first started, I started a YouTube channel straight away. So I was obviously looking at keywords, looking at how I can get my videos to the top of title searches. There was like no botting videos. There's a few. There's like obviously when people did live streams and stuff like that, but there wasn't as much content as it is now. So you couldn't search up like a depth tutorial and a tutorial would pop up. It wasn't that easy. It was literally just like the rare live cops and people actually copying it from the bot website. There wasn't much documentation or videos on how to use these bots. So obviously having someone there to go and help you was definitely beneficial. In your opinion, one thing that obviously I didn't want to jump into, in your opinion, is it easier to start botting now compared to when you started, or do you think it's more difficult?
Um, well, in terms of like looking at like now, I feel like there's more bots available. Like you have NSB, which is obviously all like available all the time. You have A and B, which is still available. But most of like the good bots are super super expensive, so you have to invest a lot to start right now. Plus, with like all the like changes to Shopify sites, foot sites, and stuff like that, they're doing as much as they can now to stop bots. Like compared to when I started in 2018, like it was basically you had a bot, you bought proxies, and you ran, and most of the time you would hit. Like there was a stretch for when I was using A and B that I didn't miss like a single Adidas drop for a very long time. Like I hit every single one. It was just because like not many people were botting at the time, so I feel like it was easier to get into it back then. Just like you didn't have the whole complications of bot protection and stuff like this. So if like a company was able to figure out something, it would work for a long time and you'd be set. Nowadays, like everything's changing and they have to adapt literally every day to changes, and it's just harder for people to hit. Plus, there's a lot more users now. Back in like 2018, 2017, and before then, there was hardly any people who were botting. So it made like getting shoes and actually like botting in general easier because you had less competition.
Yeah, definitely, I can agree with that. I mean, back in 2018, all these changes were happening, but just way less frequent. You see a lot of bots now flop a lot more frequently just because of the fact that these sites are actively combating bot users. There's a lot more bot users. People join the botting community every single day. You have people coming in with loads of capital and just spending money on bots. You have people that really don't have much money. So then businesses like NSB and A&B that cater towards people that want all in stock bots is definitely where they end up going. And one thing I did want to kind of pick your brain about, what's your general opinion, if you do have one, on the current pricing of bots, because the aftermarket at the moment is pretty high, and I'd say back in 2018 it wasn't anywhere near how it's like right now.
Yeah. Well, especially right now, I think a lot of it has to do with the current pandemic we're in because everyone's like been inside lately. But personally, I think most bot prices are inflated. There are a couple which I believe should still be high, like Cyber should be up there, Kodai should be up there. Prism has done very well on foot sites as well. Wrath, like those bots should be up where they are because they're constantly performing. They always have success and they're just up there. But like, there's other bots that will you hear of no success and they're 3 grand, 4 grand, and I don't understand why they're so expensive if people aren't really like hitting that much. It seems basically whenever a bot comes out of beta, like in today's age, the bots automatically like $2,000, $3,000. Like there's no room for them to just keep going up. Like they should start low, like basically at retail, and then like once they've had years of success, like that's when prices should start rising. I feel like people are just inflating the prices, and that can also go off some of like bot calls too. Like you'll see people raise the price of a bot $1,000 in a week just because of they think some update's coming, and then the update never happens, and the bot still doesn't perform well, but they raise the price $1,000 for no reason.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I mean, it's a market that's not regulated, so I think it comes down to your personal opinion. My personal opinion, I don't really see any problem with it. I mean, the developers are still making their money, and we've seen a gradual, I could say, cultural shift or community shift towards consumers and repeatable people willing to pay more for these bots, and that is something that could be a way to combat such high resale values. We've seen bots like Dragon charge like 1k retail, I think, and there's bots are just slowly moving towards charging more for retail, and that's also something that I want to speak about. Like, what is your opinion on that? Because obviously I think the ideology is to basically close the gap between the aftermarket and how much money the company rakes in. Are you in favor of that, or do you just don't like the idea of people hyperinflating these bot prices?
Well, I mean, I agree when bots like put in monthly fees, or if their retails are higher, they raise their fees. Because like what people don't realize, like Dashy was one of the bots that took so much heat for this. Because Hunter originally only sold lifetimes. Same with Eve, they only sold lifetimes, and just recently they switched to renewals, and people went crazy over it because they're like, why should I have to pay renewal? I bought a lifetime buy, I should get lifetime updates. But people don't realize like how much developers spend of their own time and money to like keep these bots up to par and make sure they're working to the best of their abilities. Like if you're gonna have a bot, especially like a Dashy that's been around for a little bit, and all he did was sell lifetimes back then, he probably used all of that money already, putting it back into the bot and doing stuff like that. And now all the hard work he's doing now, especially since he has to update for every single drop, basically because the protection has changed and stuff like that. I think they should be getting money on a monthly basis as like a way to keep their bots going and stuff like that. So I have no problem with like bots charging higher retails or charging monthly like payments, monthly reoccurring payments. I do think though that it does like factor into the whole resell thing, because if a bot's retailing at $200 and it's reselling for 6K or $300 like Cyber, the problem is people, if they buy the bot for resale, they pay that 6 grand. They want $6,000 worth of a bot, and if let's say the bot flops, which happens it happens, stuff happens, the bot flops, the person who spent 6K on the bot's gonna be super upset because they invested $6,000 into a bot and they want $6,000 worth of product, when in reality, like they should technically only be getting the $300 worth of product because that's what the bot retails at. And it also goes into like how it encourages some like developers to like backdoor, like because if they're not charging a lot of like monthly fees, they might start backdooring their bot to make the money. Like I know everyone like always bags on Wrath because he doesn't backdoor any single copy and his bot's at $7,000. But that's why he introduced a monthly payment, because he needs to make his money still for all the hard work he's doing while not backdooring the bot and going against that like code of ethics and keeping the bot small, community small, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, Whatbot used that exact same reasoning. They said that, I think it's in their frequently asked questions, or I think it's when I literally interviewed Sneaky or Alias, one of the two. They use this reasoning where essentially, if a consumer goes onto the aftermarket and spends like $6,000 or $3,000, like you said, they're expecting that type of value. Like, if you, I don't know, buy a car for $10,000, and okay, that is probably a bad example. Let me just like let me give a different example here. What I'm trying to put across is that if the consumer is paying X amount, they expect X amount of value. So if the bot retails for like $300 and they bought it for 6 racks, then obviously the company is putting forward a product worth $300. Obviously, sometimes it does exceed it, but in the company's mind, they're fulfilling that $300 value. So obviously, the aftermarket being at the stage it is right now, you have a lot of people. I've heard of people getting loans from their parents, buying these bots, and they're promising that through their reselling career they'll pay it back even with interest. Like, it is a very dangerous game, and I think the people that honestly, I think your safest bet at the moment is probably trying to get. Then again, I was gonna say trying to get it from these bot releases like our retail, but then again, like it's insanely hard now because you've got
Yeah.
a bunch of tools and stuff. So it's I don't know. I don't know what I'd tell a person if someone came to me and said, "What should I do?" I don't know what I'd say to them. To be honest, like, what would you say?
Well, usually, like if someone's trying to get into botting, I usually recommend usually I recommend NSB off the start because most of the time, even if you can't get a code, which most of the time they will give out codes, you pay $500. Yeah, $500 is a lot of money to some people, but it's a very small investment in the terms of like sneaker botting. And the bot works on basically any site that like works on Supreme, Adidas, Yeezy, U Supply, Shopify, Foot sites. Like it has everything. It's all in one. And for the $500 with that bot, and it's always in stock. It's easy to get people's hands on. Like they can get their hands on it. I think that's a great starter bot instead of telling someone to like hop in and buy cyber because if they come in and buy cyber, they have 6K invested. Let's say they can't hit, they don't do anything, they don't know what they're doing. Then they have 6K invested in some bot and they have to sell it and then they'll lose fees and stuff like that. This way, when they come in like beginners, they only have 500 invested initially. They're not putting forth like a bunch of money. So I don't know. I think it's better to start lower and work your way up.
Yeah, definitely. NSB does trump that type of stigma. I've done a lot of work with him in the past, and I spoke to the team, and and I obviously pay attention to public opinions, and I think the NSB I can personally vouch that is like the one of the only companies that reside within the always in stock sector that do uphold that value. Like, it's a very very solid bot. Like, I know people that run Cyber, RAF, and those type of bots and still run NSB because it's a very very solid alternative. And if you cop it with a coupon code, $350. Now, given $350 itself as that value does have different opinions depending on your income. Like, some people, like, to us, I'd say 350 isn't too much of an expense if we are thinking about it long term and we'll make money from shoes. But obviously, to a regular consumer, 350 is pretty substantial. So I feel like when you do get into the botting scene, you are going to have to adjust your type of mindset and obviously be willing to invest to get money out at the end. But shifting back to the episode here, I did want to ask you, so you got into buying through AMB and you had someone to help you there, you got it for $80. How did you actually join the sneaker Twitter community, botting community that resides on Twitter on Discord?
Well, since I had like A and B, I had joined their Discord because I got through it. So, like when I bought it off him, it didn't come with his Discord because he had used it already. But I somehow got through and emailed like A and B through their support, and they like gave me a Discord invite. So I got into their Discord, and I was just in there like being a noob, typical A and B noob. And uh, I had someone in the chat like message me and say like, "Hey, like, are you trying to join a cook group?" And like at the time, I was like, "I don't really know what a cook group is." Like, but I mean, if it'll help me botting and help me like get better things, then like yeah, sure, I'll give it a try. And like so I took his offer and joined this cook group. And sadly, the cook group disbanded like a year ago ish. But that was like my first group. I joined that and was in there for about a year and a half ish. And while I was in there, like I created a sneaker Twitter, like a burner Twitter, I guess you could call it, to use for like shoes and success posts and giveaways and stuff like that. So I didn't have to just like post it on my main to all like my local friends and stuff like that. I wanted to have just like a separate one. You know, like people make little like gaming Twitters and stuff like that. So that was how I joined like the sneaker Twitter community and stuff like that. Because I had made that Twitter to use for like success and stuff like that, and I would just post on there, shout the group out, shout the proxies out, and stuff like that, and kind of just went from there.
Right. So obviously you made that account to segregate your personal life and this life, and you know a lot of people do that. I did that personally, and it worked pretty well. Obviously, I don't even use my personal Twitter account anymore. I can't just use this. But at the time, it is a very good idea because you don't want to mix up things. You don't want to bring up questions with people. They ask questions, they find it weird. So it's probably a better idea to do that. But obviously, you do have a large following, and it's going to lead into some of the questions I'm going to ask. But when you created this burner Twitter on Sneaker Twitter to post success and obviously enter giveaways and stuff like that, when did you first ever see a spark of popularity? Did it come from interacting with someone? Did someone pay attention to something you did, or how did that come about?
Well, it's actually just the account was just basically like I had followings from people from like the group. Because when I was in the group, it was just like a sort of like a close knit community. It's like people would follow each other and stuff like that. So I didn't really have like a big following at all until basically recently, like these past probably 5 months maybe. Before then, I had around like 200 or 300 followers, which I mean, it's a lot for some people, but not a lot for others. I don't know. I just would have people follow me. I think part of it would go into like success posts too. Like a lot of people don't post success, but what people don't realize is like when you post those, you have huge companies who have 30, 40, 50,000 followers that are retweeting them, and they have accounts that follow them who are people that look up to people in botting and they want to get into botting. So those people like start to follow you and stuff like that, and that's how you can gain followers from like success tweets and stuff like that. And I guess kind of just the success just kind of went from there, and we gained a lot of following.
Yeah, I mean, I clicked onto you and you made a YouTube channel, and that's something we are going to get into because obviously I do the bot talk. I don't do too much YouTube content now. I'm planning on changing that. However, I do always scope out new people that are coming up, and I think the way I saw your content was the exact same way I saw Lucky Bot's content, and essentially it was exactly how you said. One of these big companies retweeted your video. Now, essentially, back when all these YouTubers started, what they were doing is I don't know if you did this, but I know a lot of people did. They basically put their success post, but also put the YouTube link in the actual success post. Now, that's what I used to do. So when I used to do cop on Soul and cop on Adept, that's what I used to do to push traffic towards the video. Because like you said, if someone's looking up to these bots, they don't have the bot, they see the success, and then they see a video, they want to see how the bot performs, so they click on the video. It's a very good way to get views that way. And I'm pretty sure I saw your video on the timeline by someone retweeting it, and that's kind of how it started. But I did want to dig back to the root idea of YouTube, and I wanted to ask you, what made you want to start a YouTube channel?
Well, like I don't know. You know how always when you're a kid, you always dream of becoming like a YouTuber or something like that. That kind of like fueled it. And like as I said earlier, like I was a gamer. Like I gamed, I did stuff like that. So like I always would make like gaming videos, which would never get views and stuff like that, because that's just typically how YouTube is. You never get exposure at all. So like once I actually became like I guess good at botting, and I had finally like gotten my first like top tier bot, which was Cyber, which I got in the beginning end of 2019, early 2020. I hit on that mobile restock, so I finally had like a top tier bot, which I thought would help me like with my success and stuff like that, and I actually started to like hit a lot of like shoes and hit clips and stuff. And it was around March, I was saying to myself, like right about when lockdown started for the whole pandemic and stuff like that. I was like, well, I'm gonna be sitting inside a lot doing nothing, so like might as well just do it for fun. Like I'll just record my videos and my live cops and just quickly edit them and just post them and see what it goes. Cause like before then I had been watching, like 'cause I always watch a lot of YouTube, and I'd stumbled across Nova like when I started like the scene in sneaker Twitter and stuff like that. And I watched literally every single one of his live cops that he would post. I watched all of his like tutorials and stuff like that. So he was like a big person I looked up to in terms of like being a sneaker botter like YouTuber. And I thought it was like super cool to like see how much he had grown from it. And I was like, I'm gonna take a shot. Like I'm gonna see if I can get it going. So I posted like I don't even remember what my first video was. I think it was like a live cop on Supreme. I think it was like the spring summer week. It was like week 2 or something. I don't remember what drop it was, but I posted that, and like within a week, I had like 500 or 600 views, and I was like, "There's no way I have this many views. Like I'm a nobody. I have 30 subs or 20 subs, and how do I have this many views?" So then I was like, maybe people like actually enjoy this type of stuff. So then I posted another video, and I got like 800 views, and I was like holy cow, like people are actually watching my videos. Like I don't know how am I getting this exposure. And then I think it was like 2 weeks after that first video I posted like hit 1,000 views, and like I thought that was crazy. Like that I had 1,000 views on YouTube, because you usually post videos, you get 20, 30 views if you have no following. And it was very quick that like I hit 100 subs, and then 250, 300, and it just started growing like a lot. And then it's to where I am today, where I have almost 3K subs and over 130K views on my channel. Like I don't know, I just think it's kind of crazy like how fast it's happened. Because I mean, I started it back in March with the hopes that like I would break off someday and become some big huge YouTuber, but I never actually thought it would happen. I was just like that little idea in the back of my head. But I guess it's taken off pretty well, and I can thank everyone who's helped me on the way. Like all the support and stuff's been amazing. I never thought that I would have 3K subs in October of 2020, because when I did my first giveaway on Twitter, when I hit 300 subs, which was what was that been? Probably it was right around May, June. Like it was like around the Flint 13 drop. I uh I thought to myself, I was like, oh, I wonder if like I'll be able to hit 1,000 subs by the end of the year. And then like a month later, I hit 1,000 subs, and I was just it's kind of crazy, but
I think one of the most interesting parts of that whole answer was that you obviously came from the gaming community, and I personally did that as well. Like I was streaming back in, I think it was like 2016, 2017. I was streaming like Black Ops 3 Zombies. I was like pretty much streaming every single day on YouTube, and by the end of it, I got like 3K subs, and that's after like 2 years of consistent streaming and creating content. So I think one of the main things that people don't understand within this community, that like getting 500 views on your first ever video on YouTube, that doesn't happen. Like in no other community out there does that happen. Like it's the view counts and the way this people subscribe to you in this community is the most abnormal thing I've ever seen. Like when I started, I was this was back in 2018. I was seeing the views build up, but in a much slower rate compared to now, because YouTube
yeah,
wasn't too accepted back then in this community. But like once the views came in, like I was just sat there like, why was I doing zombies for 2 years? I should have just done this. Like it's so much easier to get traction in this community compared to others. That isn't to say it isn't justified, but I feel like there is a very, very good market for people to consume content here. Because and even like if you think about it on a base level, like obviously people come to your channel for your personality. That's what I'd like to think. If you actually think about the base content, you're literally just watching an application with statuses changing on some tasks. Like
yeah,
it isn't as entertaining as like you playing Black Ops 3 Zombies and you're playing Kino of the Tone and you get like round 100. Like it isn't as entertaining as that arguably. But for some reason people consume it more. And it's always like really, really interested me.
yeah. Well, going off of that too, like I think the botting scene and botting YouTube has its own niche. Like you have to be a sneaker botter or someone in shoes to like understand it and like it, as compared to like you said with gaming, how you make gaming videos, you never get views. But I think that plays into the aspect of like you have all of these professional gamers. Like you have Team Optic, you have Envious, you have all these professional, I guess, athletes you would call them, maybe professional gamers like that are making YouTube videos. People would rather watch them because they're professionals and stuff like that. Like we don't have that in our community. Like we don't have professional botters or people who are on Sports Center and stuff like that botting shoes. It just doesn't happen. So I think people are more likely to click on random people's videos to see other people's content, because there's really no like go-to person like professional, well, besides like Nova now and stuff like that. and like E-Man, but there's really no go-to like professional person to go to. There's people just go around and click on videos. Like,
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, to add into that point, I mean, even with the most successful people in this community, if they dropped videos, like, I'd still say a person that cooks two box loaves on a drop could still pull in views, and it's interesting. I don't think the market for YouTube is ever gonna get too populated just because of the fact that this community really likes to consume for some reason. I don't know why, but I'm not complaining. It obviously helps all of us, but it's definitely interesting, and I've overviewed the entire thing, like during the entire transition. Looking back, I should have made more videos during this entire thing, but it's definitely refreshing to see new content, new faces like yourself, like E-Man. Obviously, you have Lucky Bot coming up now, and I'm sure like 3-4 months from now there'll be someone else we're talking about, and someone else would have thousands of subscribers, thousands of views like yourself. It's always going to be very interesting because people really craft their channels around their personality, and that's kind of what keeps consistent views, and that works across a bunch of communities. And that is something I do want to speak about. If you look at the sneaker botting Twitter community as a whole, it's very anonymous in a way. You see, obviously, the reputable people at the top. Let's take three people here. Let's take Curty, Michael, and Connor from Express. So, like, obviously, you know what they look like, you know their real names, and they're out there, they're public. So we know that. But there's a ton of people in this community that hide behind a username, don't really say their first name, don't show pictures of themselves. So I feel like there is a divide between people that are completely out there, like yourself. I'd say you're completely out there, you show your face, obviously everything like that. And there's people out there that have like obviously a certain avatar with a random username. The one thing I did want to pick into, what made you be so public with yourself? Was it something you didn't really think about, or was it something you put some thought into?
well, this is actually like a very funny like thing to get into because I'm not the type of person to be like out there and like just outgoing. I'm more of like a shy person. Like in school, I'd be the kid that'd sit in the back of the classroom, like just sit there, not answer questions, and just do my own thing. Like I tried never to be the kid that was called on or would never answer questions like publicly, and I just didn't never wanted like the center of attention. And I was just personally me, but putting myself out there, I think it had to do from making gaming content because I started when Fortnite like became a big thing. I started a Twitch stream and I was streaming with that with a webcam and stuff like that, and I was pulling viewers, and I hit Twitch affiliate status like very quickly, and people were like would come in my chat and literally laugh like so hard because of like the reactions I would do and stuff like that. So like I could tell people could like were liking my personality and stuff like that. So I didn't mind like putting it out there. You always get the hate and stuff like that, especially because I'm fat. People always come at you and be like, "Oh, you're fat." Like, thanks, buddy. Like I knew that. You didn't need to tell me that. But I think it has to do, especially with our community, in terms of sneakers. Like people hide behind things because of our community is, to say the least, very toxic. For the most part, there's very few people that are like just genuinely like nice to everybody. You usually have people who are toxic or they'll come at people, and I think people don't want to show their faces and put themselves out there because they're afraid that people are like gonna expose their flaws and do stuff like that. What you mean? Sad world we live in. People do that. But like that's where I came in. Like I don't care if people make fun of me. Like if you're gonna call me fat, cool. You're calling me fat. Like I don't really care. Like I know I'm fat. You don't need to tell me stuff like that. I don't know, I like the whole reason I put myself out there was I don't know just to make people happy because you never know who is scrolling through your Twitter and what they're going through. Like when I started making these rant videos, those blew up because people said they would just start laughing hysterically and they couldn't stop laughing. Like doing stuff like that, making myself look like a clown and a goofball, like doesn't bother me at all because as long as I know like there's someone out there who like I guess cheers their day up and makes their day better, then that's all that matters because you never know like what people are going through in their daily lives, like the stresses of everything, school, work, stuff like that. People go through stuff and that little smile and laugh they have literally could cheer like their whole day up. So like if I can do that and put myself out there, like I can take the heat for people making fun of me because of my weight and stuff like that or my appearance because I don't know, I just rather make people happy. I don't know, it's just how I am. I always like to make sure people are okay and they're good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a commendable thing because obviously this community, like you said, is very toxic. And to be honest, I don't think it'll ever sway away from that just because the community is very centered around money. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's obviously, it comes with its trade offs. And we always see its trade offs. It's a very toxic community. However, there is some positivity in there. And I feel like obviously you belong to that. These rant videos, which is something I didn't want to get into as well, they blow up just because of the fact that it's like a positive thing. Obviously, regardless if you perform in a drop or you don't, I've seen some of your run videos where you like literally hit nothing, like you were pretty unsuccessful. It was still pretty funny. There's people in a replies crying over it, and it is funny, and it is something that people love. Like we've seen, I know of people in the past that have done these types of videos on Twitter, and they always do well because of the fact that if you know the person's personality and you see how they're expressing themselves to the camera, obviously it is a positive thing, and like you said, it could uplift someone's day. So I feel like every time you put those out there, they do numbers, and obviously people really like them, and obviously people want you to keep pushing them out. But we spoke about some aspects of people's personal life there, but I just wanted to flip that around and talk about your personal life. Obviously, when you first blow up on YouTube, I'll say from my perspective, sorry. When I first blew up, quotation marks, on YouTube, obviously I started investing more time into the TheBotTalk. I got into marketing. How can I market these videos? How can I spend more times in these videos? And, I spent money on microphone and stuff like that. Obviously my personal life got impacted because of that, because I had to start thinking differently to create longevity. But when you blew up on YouTube and you got this Twitter following, and obviously you were in contact with these big companies in the community, how did that impact your personal life?
Well, this part is the crazy part because, like, I can't say I ever had to struggle in life. Like, my parents are well off, and I haven't really had to ever struggle for anything and stuff like that. So, like, in terms of making like the money from reselling and stuff like that, it's affected my personal life in the fact that like I was able to buy like designer shoes and I could buy all these shoes now because like my parents wouldn't spend money on stuff like that because they just thought it was dumb. Like they would never spend. They wouldn't. They would if I asked for a $600 pair of Gucci shoes, they would slap me in the face and be like, "What are you doing? Why would you spend that money on those? Like you should use that money for something else that will hold its value better and stuff like that." So I guess like reselling impacted my life because I was able to like buy designer clothes. I remember when I bought like my first pair of Gucci shoes and stuff like that. Like my mom was so mad, but it allowed me to like resell and make money. And all like this past year, especially since like May on, it's impacted my life like greatly because I consider some of the people I've met like lifelong friends, especially like some of the partnerships I've done with like Michael, George, and Nova from Notify. I consider all three of them like very close friends of mine now. I talk to all of them literally daily, which in my mind is insane because I never thought I'd ever talk to Nova in my life because he was just so far ahead of everybody. But like I consider Michael and George like some really good friends as well, and that's just coming stemming off from like the sponsorship when Notify sponsored me. And then another one would be Mason from Pulse Notify because I consider him like a great friend and stuff like that. Like when I've been in Pulse for a year and a half ish, and I never really like would talk with owners and stuff like that. I just kind of lay low and stuff. But once I started like putting myself out there and stuff, like he started talking to me more and stuff like that. So I don't know, I would consider like all three of them, or all four of them actually, like lifelong friends now. Like I have most of their phone numbers and stuff like that, and I talk to them on a daily basis. So I'd say that's impacted my personal life because I'm making some new friends doing this stuff, which is kind of cool. Even though they're internet-based friends, I hope I can meet them all one day. And we can go get like some dinner or something like that. Because
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know, I think that would be super cool to just meet everybody like that. So that's one of the ways like it's definitely like impacted my personal life, like getting friends. But in terms of like I guess the negative impacts would be like you have to put a lot of time into things during. I mean, right now I didn't really have to worry about it because of all lockdown and stuff like that. But being like a college student with all my friends that go to the same college as me, like they'd always want to party Friday, Saturday nights, and like I would just never go. Like I wouldn't be there. I'd be like at home setting my bots up and stuff like that. So I guess it affected that in that sense because like I never really experienced like the whole college experience thing. But that's not really like a big deal because I'd rather be like making the money and stuff like that because that's what I enjoy to do. But I don't know. overall it's been a very, very good thing in my life, and I'm very thankful for it.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the idea that I discussed with some guests on the show, with the idea of being a trade off. Obviously, there's positives and negatives, and I feel like if you can just balance that, which it seems like you're doing perfectly at the moment, you are going to focus on the positives and just kind of brush off the negatives. Like, obviously, parties, really nice to go to. Obviously, you have a very good time with your friends, but then you've kind of not substituted, but obviously with the positives, you've came and you've discovered more friends, and you've created a way to create disposable income so you can go on and spend money on these types of shoes. Like, obviously, you said with your parents they're well off, but they wouldn't give you this money to go spend on designer clothes, designer sneakers. But if you're creating that disposable income for yourself, if you evaluate it correctly, then you can go ahead and buy it yourself, and it is a very good feeling. I've experienced it with myself as well, where you get to a point where like you just don't need to rely on your parents for financial income, and it's pretty nice because you can literally just take things into your own hands. And if you need to invest in something where your parents can't really help you out, you can just literally just go and do it. It is a very, very comfortable feeling for sure.
Yeah, look, we're going off the whole thing too. Like, obviously, before I had like a job and stuff like that, I would depend on my parents for money. And then when I got my first job, I was using all that money to like buy things I wanted. And then when I started to resell, all the money that I'd made from reselling, like that's what I would use to buy like my shoes and stuff like that. Like, my mom would never give me money to buy a pair of Yeezys or something like that. Or when I bought my off-white Chicago's, like she would have slapped me if I told her I spent like $3,000 on a pair of shoes. Like, she would have literally slapped me. And like, I guess the money in reselling from that, even though it's not like a lot, I don't make that much money from reselling, but it's the extra income allows you to be able to, like, I guess, enjoy it more. You can use that money and not have to like worry about stuff like that. And I don't have to ever ask my parents for money to do things or to buy a shoe or buy a bot. Like, I buy it all myself. I'm not gonna have them pay for something like that. So I guess it's allowed me to like grow as an adult as well as someone who like just turned 21, which most people are in Singapore. They're usually younger. It's a great opportunity for people to like get a sense of the real world and how business works and how stuff like that works and how to like manage money, do expenses and stuff like that before you actually get shoved into the real world. And like, going off of that, my parents definitely are like surprised at like what I've done. They like, because at first when I told my mom I was doing this stuff, like, she's like, "I hope you're making the right decision. Like, hope you're not losing money. I hope you know what you're doing, because if you lose money, that's gonna be stupid." Yada yada yada. But I think I've been able to like prove to them now that like I know what I'm doing. I've been able to like be successful with it. So it also like built a better connection with my parents, I guess, because they're like more proud of me, even though they were proud of me before. But like, they're just, wow, like, you were able to like start your own business and start this and stuff like that. Like, that's pretty cool. While like going to college, while working and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of people can relate to that final point where their parents don't really believe in the idea. And to be honest, like, if I was a parent and my kid came up to me and said, "Yo, I'm flipping X, Y, and Z, and I get my money back with $100 on top," I'd be skeptical because, like, this money's disappearing into the internet. You're getting shoes that you're meant to wear, and then you're making money from it. It is kind of sketchy, the idea of it, but once they just develop an understanding of the aftermarket, you kind of explain the whole ideology behind it. Yeah, pride does definitely come into it. I mean, obviously, every parent should be proud of their kids, but if you have a kid who is doing their academia, they're running a business, they're making money, they don't rely on you for money, it is definitely something to pay attention to. And obviously, a lot of opportunities kind of open up with that. But guys, I think that's going to go ahead and conclude today's episode. It was a banger episode. I really enjoyed it. If you guys want to check out Burger Kicks' social medias, will be down below. And as advertised, we do have a special event from Burger Kicks sponsor Notify. Now, essentially, after this clip, how this is going to go ahead and work is that it's going to cut to a clip of me explaining how this event is going to take place. Then an event countdown is going to pop up on the screen. After that countdown takes place, the special event will take place. Good luck, guys. So essentially how this special event is going to work, it's going to work very simply, so please pay attention to this so you can go into the event and know exactly what to do. So after this clip, an event countdown is going to pop up, then the event's going to take place. When the event actually takes place, what's going to happen is a link is going to appear on the screen. That link, once you paste it into Google, will go ahead and take you to the Notify restock. Good luck, guys.